this is going to be an interesting topic. This is an idea that we've been tossing around for a long time now. I'm confident there's going to be a lot of stories, some really good stories, namely because that's where so many of these ideas have come from, that the world, that people, that they want you small. Why do they want you small? Let's set the stage of where this came from. So there we were, we were talking to one of our colleagues just about like working out in the gym, things that we were trying to accomplish. We were doing a strongman competition, telling him about what we were doing, and he came back and he was like, I don't work out because my girlfriend likes me small. And we were just like, what?
Hit it.
Just the what?
I think for us, it's the non-standard response for us was like, we certainly didn't expect that response.
He has the potential to be a big, beautiful, charismatic guy, right?
Right.
It's not like the genetics aren't there.
So that was the record scratching. What?
Just your girlfriend wants you small.
Well, it got announced and he was very proud of it.
I know.
Like it was almost like this reverse AMOGing on us because we came in to check on folks and he was curious about what we were up to. And we're like, hey, we're going to work out. We're getting ready for this event.
Yeah.
And he just kind of was like, oh, I don't lift. I don't lift at all. My girlfriend likes me small. And we were like, and I mean, I had whatever possessed me just to go straight for the jugular on this one was just like, I was like, yeah, well,
she likes me big.
Yeah. I was like, well, she'll like her next boyfriend big.
I don't actually remember. Did we say that to him at the time? Or is that just something that we have said to each other multiple times over ever since this conversation?
It's just because the story still comes up. No, I said it. And then he was...
And then his record. Okay.
What? No, it's just... And this is now where the idea comes from. I love this. This is the one we started on, right? They want you small. They like you small. And why is that? Like it
like, where does that come from?
It's almost kind of I'm witnessing this more often now than I did, I think, when I was younger or when I was growing up. I don't know where it comes from. Hence why it's it makes my head shake when I witness it. But now that we've been kind of tuned into it, we have more experiences and situations that I don't even think people are kind of tracking, but it hits this theme that why would you regulate somebody to be small? Why would you keep somebody
right
from their potential?
Yeah. Or why would you encourage them to not take risks and go out and better themselves and that kind of thing?
Or in this case, as the opening story, almost be proud of the fact that somebody wants you to limit yourself.
Right.
And not that being big is a end all be all, but being big matters.
Yeah, I think the conversation tonight is going to show that being big, and we'll put some various definitions on what big means.
Let's get to the physical aspect of it first, because as we've even opened up, it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the first thing that you can do to improve yourself.
Yeah.
Is to maximize your physicality. So these opening stories, I think, just hit that piece, right?
Right.
And then we can subcategory it's not just big in the physical. It's big in the mental, physical, spiritual, emotional.
Yeah. Big in lots of ways. Impactful is another way to think. We'll get there. But I think we've shared this story before too, about this young guy, very capable, smart, intelligent, competent in his job. But then when I show up, like the first thing that he thinks to share with me is that he had PR'd his calf raise. And again, I had this record scratch moment. I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I've been around the gym scene for a while now. I didn't know that you could PR your calf raise.
I thought he was kidding. Like I laughed and I'm like, I was like, oh, that's clever. Coming up to Colin and telling him that, hey man, I PR'd my calf raise. But then
and I'm just like,
I realized very quickly that he wasn't kidding. That this is all right. Tell me more, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. So how's your squat?
Yeah, then what do you squat? Oh, I don't squat.
Again, I'm like, what?
Hang on.
Okay, so you're gonna purposely show up to the gym and intentionally do a calf race toward even like setting a PR on it.
Like he set himself up for like, how do you get hype on a cat? Like, I want to set this up in the gym and it looks like there's a hidden camera and like real gym bros are around. Like, what are you doing, dude? This is how I'm imagining the setup.
Yeah.
But he was adamant. He was very proud of himself.
Yeah. He clearly had, some sense of self-worth attached to this idea that you can PR your calf raise in general and that he did it. But then when I ask him, okay, how's your squat? To turn around and say, I don't squat. I don't squat.
Like, that's stupid. Why would you even ask me that?
And I was like, bro, you need to squat. Like,
no, I don't want to squat.
To which I reply, fine, stay small. Which maybe that's not the nicest thing for me to say, but like,
you were offended. we were offended.
Yeah,
at the
audacity of
defending the calf raise,
right,
as like, we're kind of known like gym rats.
Yeah.
Right. And this is also a kid who's like, hey, I want help. And you have no kiddingly been like, oh, I got a book, I got a program, I've got,
dude, like, I will help you.
Like, absolutely. And then in a short time later, be like, PR'd my calf raise. And now it's just a running joke.
Right.
Who PRs their calf and records that? Apparently this dude. But
yeah, dude,
the indignation of the response, you just fine. Stay small. And to that, we got ooh.
Yeah, everybody around is just like, ooh,
burn.
Seriously. Just like
that was it. And then he left.
And dude, he didn't talk to me for like months afterward.
And it was it was done in good love and faith too. But
I don't know, but for a while there, like, I couldn't take him seriously, and he couldn't like look at me without some amount of shame coming back.
You didn't put that on him. You take no responsibility for that.
Right.
But what in this dude's head scared him from doing the hard lift?
Yeah. Did he have a girlfriend that was saying, hey, I like it when you're small?
We've shared the story. We've tried to dissect it from an intellectual perspective. We've tried to do the math on it because, I mean, truly, it's just so like, what just happened here? I want this dude to win.
Right.
And
he's fully capable. It's not that he couldn't. He has the genetics, just like the first story. He has the ability to, I mean, dude, he could squat serious weight. He really could. But he prefers to PR his calf raise instead. But why?
Because it's like, easy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's a convenience side to it. But is there somebody in his life that is like saying, oh, I like you small? You know what would really turn me on? You know what would really turn me on? Is if you would go PR your calf raise for me. What?
Can I GTS right now? Like calf raise world record?
Yes, do it.
I was surprised if this really exists. You know what? And all the time that like, I've been making fun of this poor kid. It's like we never really thought to look up if this is a real legitimate thing. Oh man.
No way.
In Croydon, London, England.
All right, this is a thing. Let's see what this is.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
No way. This is a real thing.
But he's doing it multiple times. I thought it was just like a one.
It's not a one rep max. Okay. If he ever comes back around, he's like, yo, I PR'd my calf raise and it was 601 kilograms.
I'm
like,
wicked impressed.
All right.
The dude in that video looks like he squats too, though. Like,
seriously though, right? Like, you need to squat in order to be able to set the world record for the standing calf raise. You don't just show up to the gym day one and start pursuing a calf raise without squat. I mean, dude, we've beat this horse to death over and over and over again, but it's part of the conversation because he refused to do the thing that would make him big. Yes, physically, but just also to be somebody that is impactful, right? To have a physical presence, a demeanor that of somebody who's out there to win, right? But instead he's pursuing something that is really of no importance at all. And therefore he will stay small, right? You know, he's going to be tiny for a long time until he changes his mind. It changes his attitude towards the gym, towards squatting, deadlifts, and whatever else. But also the other things that we recommend as pursuits of value and training that are going to help him to become an influential human being. There's this guy. Now, another one that's even more recent. It was just like a couple of weeks ago, again, in the gym, because that's where so many of these kinds of conversations take place. A father and a son are there working out together, and
which was awesome.
Freaking awesome.
And we've seen them often, and it's kind of, I'm like, man, look at this. This is great. This is mentoring. Is his dad taking care of, like teaching his son how to
probably 40, 50-year-old dad with a 13, 14-year-old kid. Yeah, starting to show him how the gym works. Absolutely 100%, you should do that. If you're a father of sons at that age, you need to get them in the gym, get them comfortable with the equipment so that it's not so unfamiliar, that it's something that they can pursue so that they do want to squat instead of do a calf raise or something along those lines. And so we gave the guy props. We called him out and said, hey, that is awesome. Thank you for bringing your son in here. Right.
And he's like, oh, I see you guys all the time. What are you working towards? Asking, just the questions back. Hey, what are you guys doing? Like, what are you guys working on?
Yeah.
And the son's looking at us as we've got our weight belts on, and I believe we were deadlifting.
Yeah.
I mean, like pushing some heavy deadlifts on plates that we were not familiar with.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to navigate our way through pulling these lifts, and they're watching, and the son, you can see he's just like, wow, right? Like, I want to do that.
Right. Yeah. You could see it in his eyes for sure. Dad, he's
right.
Not actually saying this, but he's wanting to, like, Dad, that's what I want to do. I want to be big. I want to be strong like those guys over there.
Right. And now that we're not unapproachable anymore because we've got a dialogue with the dad going on, like we figured the question, because he voted, hey, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're preparing for a physique show. But prior to that, we did a strength train up, and you've been coaching people on how to get strong for a while. Like, that's your bag. You brought me into this.
Right.
And you could see him back and forth looking. I mean, he's watching this conversation like a tennis match.
Yeah.
I believe you had asked him, hey, what do you want? What sports do you play?
Yep.
And he didn't even let him speak.
Yeah. Dad jumps right in and is like, oh, I want him to, stay lean. I want him to, do cross country, get a scholarship to some Ivy League school, something along those lines.
Right. Like, he may be living my dream, but, I was a runner. Okay. I was a runner. That's what I know. This is how I've trained.
Right.
I don't want him getting too big. And it was just like,
what?
You and I both had to be like,
again, with the
coming off of, coming off of too many examples now of why would you limit your son and tell him this
in front of other people who have already charted the path, have shown that it's possible, who are encouraging him, inviting him, and say, hey, I've got skills and expertise. I can show you and your son how to get big and strong. Like let's do this thing.
Right.
Oh, no.
No. He needs to be...
Want him to stay small. Those were his words.
Yeah, right. And you could just see the defeat in the kid's eyes.
It's just like, Dad, no. Why do we keep seeing this conversation taking place? Like, is this a thing that's out there? Like, what is it that people are trying to accomplish by staying small? Like, what's the motivation?
Or the limiting beliefs even in the struggle, right? I think we've got two of our kind of brothers and to kind of break their thinking.
It's more than two now, but yeah, there's a couple of guys that really stick out in our minds.
And both of them it was almost a similar approach where the conversation almost got uncomfortable because it was going to put them in a position to have to do something hard.
Right.
And in both of these instances, it was, why are you standing in your own way?
Yeah. Seriously, like one of these guys, he comes into us, again, the gym, that's where the conversations happen. We're doing our thing. He sees us there. And he's interested. He comes to us and he's like, what is it that you're doing? And can you teach me? Can you show me? And I'm like, absolutely I can. These are the things that you need to do. You need to squat, you need to press, you need to bench press, you need to deadlift, and you need to stop trying to cut weight. In fact, what I need you to do right now, because he's a young guy, he's 22, 23 at the time, somewhere in there, and he's trying to lose weight. And I'm like, no. Stop that. I need you big. I need you to gain weight. And he's like, whoa. He's trying to now fight back on me when he's come to me for a recommendation, like for advice on how to look like me. And I'm like, this is how you do it. You're going to get big first. That is the number one step. But if you're going to fight me on it, now this isn't going to work, because I'm here to help you. But if you can't trust me, if you're not going to do what you've asked me to tell you to do, then I can't help you. And you don't get to ask me anymore. Like, I've already told you. Like, this is the end of the conversation.
This is the way.
Right. I should have that sound drop, but I don't, right? But
dude, if you want to make a change, then you can't be living your life based off of what your old high school football coach told you to do.
Right.
And I even had to go through a mental transformation in lifting, in that so many of the things I had done previously in sport there was a weight restriction. Like when I wrestled, it was cut weight, stay at weight. When I boxed, it was cut weight, stay at weight, and then have to perform at a lower weight. Training up for certain, schools that I've been through, and it was stay lean because you need to be fast and you need to get through your runs and you need to be able to carry weight. And man, you don't want to be bulky. You want to be, and then I meet the kind of the powerlifting community, and they've got a different approach to things. And it's something I hadn't tried before. So even for me, making that mental shift of, you want me to take in more calories, being in a body that felt very dense, and then just trusting the process was tough. But I also don't think I hit this process with so much reservation and so much like sticking your heels in, like, whoa. Like, dude, you're not a horse being led to the glue factory.
Not just doubt, but the pushback that we were getting from a lot of these guys is like belligerence. Like, they're fighting to stay small. Like, so much of their ego is invested in this identity of being small. Like, for some reason, they think that the best way to go about their lives, to enact whatever strategy that they have in mind to be successful, is to stay small. Not just physically, but like to not dare too much, to speak out, to take a risk, to innovate in a way that is novel, right? No. I'm going to stay here in my box. I'm going to comply. I'm going to follow the checklist. I'm going to do the things that I have been trained and taught and conditioned to do because that is how I'm supposed to live. That is, quote, right. That is, quote, good. That's what it means to be a good human, is to stay here, right here.
Right. Like there's almost a doctrine for it. Like you were really standing your ground on not wanting to expand.
Yeah. And then when we come around and we tell them that there is another way, that number one, they should be physically big, be imposing, be a presence in the room, a physical presence. They start to fight us on that. And then when we start to push them in other arenas as well, that, hey, maybe you should try and go do this other thing. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. Go start your own business. Or, yeah, you should go to school. Or, hey, you should go get your pilot's license and, fly around the world and do those other really awesome things. You should do that. Right. And I know that saying should is a foul word, right? We can't give people exactly what they should do. But anytime that we push people on those kinds of things and start encouraging them in a direction that's going to make them uncomfortable, they fight us. They actually fight back.
To stay
small.
To stay small.
Why?
You pulled a really great quote, and it's one that I had not read before.
It's from a religious background, which we can have that discussion if you want, but I think that there's some good material to work with here outside of the religious world, in a more secular vein, right? So the quote is, "Sadly enough, my young friends, it is a characteristic of our age that if people want any gods at all, they want them to be gods who do not demand much, comfortable gods, smooth gods, who not only don't rock the boat, but don't even row it. Gods who pat us on the head, make us giggle, then tell us to run along and pick marigolds." Now, obviously, this has a lot of religious overtones. It's just religious, period. To talk about gods being, something that you believe in, that you pursue, that you follow after. But we can replace gods in this quote with really anything that is a pursuit, a goal, a relationship, an ideal, something that you want to accomplish. And if we do that, it is characteristic of our age that people, if they want to do anything at all, if they want to pursue anything at all,
I mean, you could ad lib whatever that pursuit is, whatever that valuable thing is to you. They don't want them to demand much.
Right.
They want them to be comfortable. They want it to be smooth.
Mm-hmm. To not rock the boat and not even row it, to not push you in any direction, but just to stay static. Stay small. Why?
And then pick flowers.
Yeah. And just pursue happiness and rainbows. Can I get a rainbow? and to just like pretend as if everything is okay. To live their lives as if there is no conflict, that there is no competition, that they're not in a race against everybody else. And, there is something to that. To not necessarily compare yourself against everybody else, but that's not really how the machine is made.
That's not how the environment is designed either.
Right.
It is a contested, congested, and competitive environment.
And so if you choose to pursue anything at all, but something that it doesn't demand much of you, that is comfortable, that is smooth, you yourself are going to become not much at all either. That you will be comfortable, that you will be smooth, and not impactful in any way. I can't see myself being comfortable with that, being okay with that. For myself, certainly, but anybody that's going to be in my Dunbar layers, my inner circle, my tribe, they better be pursuing something of import, something that is going to drive them to become bigger than they are. That's the way I see this.
It's the chivalrous principle of hardihood or grit.
Yeah.
Which can't be developed unless you're willing to lean in to the hard thing. There is something to be said for and something to be learned out of a trying pursuit. And a lot of people, and especially a lot of young people I know right now, are just not confronted with a worthy challenge, or they're not willing to pursue a worthy challenge.
I was just going to say, it's not that they're not confronted with it, it's that they're not willing.
And man, we covered that one. And you can't teach the willingness.
Right. No, the math says that the willingness is going to have to come from within, and that's the gradient, right? That they see the difference between who they are and where we or somebody else is, and that gradient causes something to burn within them to be like, oh, I got to move in that direction.
Right. The intrinsic. That fire's got to come from within.
Yeah, because you can't negotiate it. You can't teach it. You cannot negotiate genuine desire, genuine influence, genuine attraction. All those things have to come from the environment itself, where they are exposed to a gradient, where they see, hear, smell, whatever. They sense in some way that who they are is not what they want to be anymore, and that there is something else out there. That's influence. That's attraction. And it functions just like gravity, just like charge, like we've discussed previously. Those anthropical forces are going to be the thing that pushes people to actually do something to make themselves bigger, better, more impactful, more influential themselves.
There's a word that we want to share that we've read out of the book, Anti-Fragile.
Yeah, Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. Required reading for anybody who's following this podcast and our work. Yeah, it's not on the shelf yet, but it will be very soon.
This one stopped us. I mean, cold. Like we had to study this one in talking about this dynamic, and then here it kind of gives it a vocabulary. This word is taken from the Arabic language, and there's the translation into English is very interesting as well. I'm gonna have you dive into this one.
Yeah. So from Anti-Fragile, this quote here, Nassim Taleb learned about this idea of megalosychon, which he got from Aristotle's Ethics, a sense of grandeur that was superseded by the Christian value of humility. And we'll put a pin in that one for a second because we'll come back to it. But there is no word for it in the Romance languages. In Arabic, it is called SHHM, which is best translated as non-small. Right? Right. Non-small. Right. So not tiny, but instead. So I'm roughly the size of a bar. Yes. Okay. So not small. If you take risks and face your fate with dignity, there is nothing you can do that makes you small. On the other hand, if you don't take risks, there is nothing you can do that makes you grand. Nothing. Dude, reading this, I was like, what? What?
Right. And as you had gotten to this part of the book, in this, we're trying to design this discussion and having all these different stories of what is it with people in our outside orbit here pep talking themselves down?
Yeah, why?
And when did this become a common thing? Because I don't know, I'm just not programmed that way. And neither are you, because you're inside the bar layer, and it's just not right. Like, I mean, winners run with winners, and you could pull the, I guess, leadership quips.
Okay.
Right. Like, oh, eagles fly with eagles.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Like birds of a feather. Got it. Like, I mean, if you're surrounded.
Iron sharpens iron. Yep. Okay.
Which I love that.
Yeah.
And I believe there's some truth to it. I'm not around people that orient me to stay small. And we've covered an episode, man, I love being around people that bully me to be a better human being.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to make decisions on my own volition, but I'm also, if you're in my inner circle, I'm going to lovingly bully you into being a better version of yourself.
That's a really nice way of putting it. But let's be honest. We're going to shame you.
And that's a powerful tool because
it is. It's a tactic.
Well, it's the Kieran Ray clip about your
hurt corrective behaviors. That if you're going to be part of my tribe, you better expect that I'm going to use some anthropedal force.
I'm going to shame you.
I'm going to shame you to be better, because I need to know that you're headed in my direction. Because if you're not headed in my direction, then you don't get to come with me, right? I need to know that if we're out there in the field, there's a shadow beyond the edge of the fire. You know, this is Jack Donovan's Way of Man, right? That I need to be able to trust that you can hold that line. And if you're going to hold that line, especially against the enemies that are coming after me, I need you big. I need you to be like, no kidding, Gaston size. Please, be big so that you can defend the tribe.
So that you can impose your will, which is really the tribe's will.
Yes.
In defense or end of taking of valuable resources. Yes.
Yeah. So don't be non-small. Don't be the opposite of SHHM, whatever that is. Be big.
So the pin that we put in this on the superseding the Christian value of humility.
Right.
And pulled up the math. Let's take it back to the single cross of
value in training.
Yeah. Humility really, we human beings, the way the machine is designed is we'll appreciate humility only from winners.
Right.
That loud incompetence is offensive. And loud ineffectiveness is offensive. And I don't know what loud invisible looks like. It looks like bragging about your calf raise. But I think there's an overemphasis on the principle of humility. And it's football player who does a victory dance in the end zone. Like, we're not going to call that humble. We're going to call it celebrating the win.
Yeah, and we're going to accept it because they won.
Because they won. Right? Like, you only have an opportunity to grandstand if you win.
Yeah. If you don't win, then any amount of dancing in the end zone is just going to be off-putting. It's going to be weird. It's going to be socially unacceptable.
Which lowers your value.
Yeah, which lowers your value for sure. But if you win, you don't have to dance in the end zone, but you can because you won.
I'd like to study the math on why then is there an overvalue? We overvalue the principle of humility.
Well, and to say that it's even Christian, Megalosychon and SHHM, this sense of grandeur was superseded by the Christian value of humility. That like borrows Jesus. It ascribes authority to the ultimate source. You know, that if you want to be godlike, you have to be humble.
But you have to have godlike power. And that's the only way we'll really respect
and that's the thing,
your humility.
Like, and that's the thing is if you have godlike power, you can, like, your performance envelope is so big, you can do whatever you want and you're still going to win.
So we like humility when it's capable and dangerous.
Yeah. Because if humility is neither capable nor dangerous, then it's just invisible. It's nothing. It's like inconsequential. There is nothing to be humble about.
Right. And being a braggart when you can't get shit accomplished is offensive.
Yeah.
And being a braggart when you're ineffective is offensive.
Right.
And grandstanding when you're already kicking ass is like,
oh, you won.
It may be offensive, but the dude took home a W.
Yeah, he won.
So
yeah, and so
you don't get to do what winners do. And if that winner wants to dance in the end zone, then that winner can dance in the end zone.
Right.
But that winner had to be big.
Yeah. Well, however you want to define big, and in this particular concept, using the sports analogy, ain't nobody playing in the NFL that focuses only on their PR calf raise. Like it doesn't work that way.
So we made it so much about the physical. I just think it's just the easiest thing to physically to see it. I mean, because this principle manifests itself, I think, the most clearly in physical pursuit.
Sure.
And everyone can see it.
And it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the step one that everybody needs to be pursuing.
So then let's take it to the other layers. The daring to think differently.
Yeah.
To not be small.
Yep.
The daring to take on more difficult pursuits. To take on mastery of something else.
Yeah.
That is big. And then achieve it.
Yeah, to achieve mastery in something that is not necessarily related to the physical realm, the gym, the fitness space, to be a master in music, like, guitar, oud, something like that. That is a great way to be big, to be competent in some sort of art form.
But these pursuits create a sensation. Like, almost to your physical core, like a sensation of somebody winning, like an idea that is different, that is attractive or seductive. Like, everyone can feel that. There is an energy.
Yeah.
There's a vibration in it. And I'm sure there's science and there's breakdown and it's getting a little woo-woo.
Yeah, it sounds super woo-woo, but it's true.
But it's true. And it's not a coincidence because anyone listening to this has felt it. There's an energy to it. And there's an energy into getting big and being capable and dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Another example that, we don't have a whole lot of positive things to say about, like, video games and spending your time in that sort of world. But even them, anybody who can become the best, become a master in a particular world, to include video games, like esports, professional game players, they can make a lot of money doing that. And there is an energy, there is an attraction, there is influence that comes from being so good at something like that. And just like them, when they win, they can celebrate it however they want because they won. Or they can make the choice to be humble about it because they won. If you don't win, then it doesn't matter. So you have to do the winning first in whatever thing it is. Sports, fitness, music, art, business.
Yeah, choose your pursuit. Just don't let the choice of that pursuit be small.
Yeah.
Or comfortable. Like, I want to rip that quote apart again and just pull all the... Have a goal that demands. Have a goal that is not comfortable. Have one it's not a smooth road. One that rocks the boat. One that inspires some pain.
Yeah, something that is going to require effort. Because it is in the exertion that we increase our value.
It's a great segue into this because we had a discussion that the forces, that there is no stress. What source did you pull that from? That there really is no...
There is no such thing as force. There's just stress and strain. Yeah. And that the absence of stress is what leads to atrophy and death. This comes from Anti-Fragile. So again, required reading, that you have to experience a stressor of some kind. And information is a stressor. Your interaction with the environment is a stressor. But if you turn that stressor down too much, or if you negate it altogether, that's when you cease to sense it. The information stops coming in. And so you maladapt to the absence of that information or that input or that stress. We've been spending so much time talking about why you shouldn't be small, why you should be big. And obviously we've made no secret about the importance of physical fitness, but there is more to it that I think is immediately actionable by anybody who's listening to this. And something that I think is really helpful in this regard is this idea of self-deprecation. And this kind of goes along with humility, right? That if you are somebody who's already invisible, self-deprecation is just going to make you even more invisible. If you're at a influential type of level, if you're high value and trained, well, number one, you wouldn't self-deprecate anyway. But if you did, your performance envelope is big enough that you can survive doing that. But even so, I don't know that I would ever recommend it. That if somebody's giving you a compliment, or if you're introducing yourself in trying to put yourself out there in the world, why would you minimize yourself in any way? I just don't understand it.
Is it a learned defense mechanism of sorts? But
a conditioned response? I don't know, but it feels like it's along these same lines of people want to be small. They want to minimize their impact. They want to not rock the boat or even row it, right? That they don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable about their presence. And I would just encourage anybody that's listening to this that wants to be influential, that wants to be a megalosicon, wants to be SHHM, that wants to be non-small, that they want to be big and beautiful, just like Gaston. Yes, I'm using that again because I love it.
It is your favorite.
It is my favorite. It is absolutely. If anybody wants to do that, they need to stop self-deprecating. I don't know that there's really ever a place where it is welcome or it's effective. I could be wrong. I'm willing to learn on this.
God, unless it's delivered in humor and you're already winning. Because then it drives it's, that guy gal, man, they're really down to earth. And nobody says that shit about people who are invisible, right? Like, people just make it weird.
I mean, some of the best advice that I've ever been given and that I would also recommend, and is also covered in Robert Greene's 48 Laws, is to never pass up an opportunity to keep your mouth shut, right? And if you feel that urge to self-deprecate, to minimize your impact, your role, your whatever, just shut up. Just don't talk.
Immediately applicable rule.
Yeah.
Like, there's two top things that come to mind when people ask, what, great pieces of advice. What would you say? And be like, well, can't teach willingness and never pass up a good opportunity to keep your mouth shut. So everybody just create a little filter in your head where things have to pass through. And if it creates or drives no value, just shut up.
Yeah. If it drives no value or if it drives your value down,
just shut up.
Just don't talk. Just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Be an observer.
It's not going to help. It's not going to move you in the right direction. That was one piece. And then another one that just was coming to mind is that I think people should be more demanding of the world around them, like to expect more. And one of the ways that this comes to mind is, again, from Robert Greene's 48 Laws, is where he talks about treating yourself as royalty. And if you do that, other people will start to do it too. Obviously, if you're invisible, then that doesn't necessarily work. But if you're moving in the right direction, if you're starting to improve yourself, becoming physically fit, not self-deprecating, reading good material, consuming media that is helpful, interacting with people that are pushing you in a direction, then yeah, I think you can, even as an invisible, before you make it to the incompetent tier or much less the influential, I think you can employ this tactic of treating yourself as a royal, because then other people will start to do it too.
I think it's having respect for your efforts as well. And there's a lesson to be learned here about establishing your own boundaries. And man, these can pull a lot of deeper conversation, a lot of layers to this. But ultimately, it's about being mission driven.
Yeah.
And choosing a mission of your own volition. That is making a sovereign decision. And when you create that path, anything that's going to steer you away from it should be something that you are going to combat or take out of your life. And the friction that creates with people who want to hang on to you or pull you back in, you have to be aware that there is nothing that should be able to take you off your path if you have made a decision to increase your capability.
Well, this goes back to that quote from Anti-Fragile. When you take risks, insults by half men, small men, those who don't risk anything, are similar to barks by non-human animals. You can't feel insulted by a dog. And yeah, that cuts. That's cruel, if you will. Cruel according to who, right? Putting judgment on it. If they are really so not important, so non-influential themselves, if you are being hollered at by people who are of really no consequence to you in your life, then what do you care?
My mother gave me this one as a kid, and I remember I was probably second, third grade, having a fit about something. Yeah. And just kind of learning your way as a kid, right? And I think the word I kept using was they.
Mm-hmm.
They. And I remember washing dishes, and my mother was an enlisted military woman. And I remember turning around and being like, who was on this they committee? And it's like, well, then identify the they. Who is they?
Yeah.
And just tell me, like, who's they? And why do they get a say? And I will never forget that.
Yeah, well, and that's immediately part that is applicable to this phrase that we've been saying. They want you small. Well, who is they?
That is the question I ask, because then it's the deeper, well, give me the 5 whys. I'm going to break this down, or break down, I'll even ask 5 times who. Just get me to the layers. Get me down to the person or the committee or the thing or the entity or the challenge, real or imagined, that is stopping you. And it's, most of the time when we have these conversations or we whiteboard it, it ends up being themselves.
Yep.
You are stepping on your own appendage that is keeping you from doing greater things.
Yeah.
It is you.
Yeah, it's the getting in your own way dynamic.
Which is exactly what needed to be said to certain people, that, in pursuit of what, like, why are you in your own way?
Yeah.
Don't tell me you want to do this thing, and then you are stopping you.
Yeah. Again, this goes back to the willingness has to come from within. Get out of your own way. Stop self-deprecating. Stop accepting that small is okay, because it's not. It's not. Unless you want to be invisible. And if that's truly the case, then I can't help you. And I don't want you part of my tribe anyway. I don't like to be around small people. I want to be around the megalocycons. I want to be around people who are SHHM. I want to be surrounded by big, impactful people. Yes, physically fit is part of that, but it's so much more. And so if you want to be part of my tribe, then giddy up, because it's time to go.
This is taken from Sean Ryan's podcast, and he had a guest on recently, Christian Craighead, that's a moniker name for him.
Yeah.
Who was a British Special Air Service soldier.
Yeah.
Who happened to just be the right place, the right time. Terrorist attack in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah, he wasn't there on assignment. He just happened to be in the area.
He was doing some training and happened to just be there.
Like, he wasn't sent to fight these terrorists.
That's
he just
correct.
happened to be there.
Just happened to be there.
Okay.
And dude's got his kit in the car, realizes he walks upon a terrorist, like, hostage taking, kidnapping type situation at a mall, and goes and grabs his gear and makes a decision that he's got the confidence, the capability, and in this case, the courage to just go and make an impact and make a difference. And he's explaining kind of the aftermath of that situation, that there were people who were like, that was the right thing to do. And there were people that said, well, if he would have failed, that would have looked very bad on his organization, on his country.
Sure.
But then he discusses the 22nd SAS's motto is, who dares wins.
Yeah.
And with that,
yeah, we'll hear it in his words.
Senior member of the British military said Christian Craighead is a bad example to young soldiers because his mutineer attitude promotes lawlessness in the military. I'm not going to pinpoint the exact person who said that because the 5 people who told me, they said 3 people said one person and 2 people said another, but they're similar jobs, so it was just a mix-up of abbreviations. I've also heard of people in the Foreign Office. Chris Craighead, he shouldn't have done that thing in Kenya. There's lots of people in the Foreign Office who really support me, but there's also senior members of the Foreign Office, and he shouldn't have done that because if I'd failed, potentially they could have said, well, it's all failed because of that man. So I would have been the scapegoat and it would have looked bad for everyone else. What I want to say to people is the last time I checked, the motto of 22 SES is who dares wins, not who asks for permission wins. People need to remember that.
Yeah, who dares wins.
I think that dude's passion. I mean, granted, it worked out in his favor, but that's the whole point of the motto is who dares wins.
Well, if they win, because there are plenty of people who might dare. They might see that and think, oh, I'm going to dare, but they don't have the training. They don't have the right equipment. They don't have whatever, and so they lose. But if you are at that level, if you put yourself in a position where you are big, where you are capable, where you are competent, then you can dare and you will win. And that obviously is going to work well for an organization like the 22nd SAS. But you have to get there.
We have Roosevelt's words on this.
Yeah, we do. That's where we're going next. So just to finalize the thoughts here, this is from Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech. Obviously, not going to cover the whole thing, but there's some really salient points here. And this one's been out there for a long time. This is not new. You know, lots of people have quoted Teddy Roosevelt in this regard, and maybe even in this particular context in the conversation that we were having here. But I think it's a good way to tie this all up is that it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. And I would say this goes for women too. It's not just men who dare, but women need to do it too. This is not to minimize anybody's gender or role or anything like that. Everybody's going to have to dare, and everybody's going to have to put themselves out there, and everybody should, I said that again. Everybody should want to be big, whatever that means in some way. Okay. It is the man or the woman that is in the arena who deserves the credit, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, but there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. Now, this is an interesting one because it kind of gives you an out if you do fail. But failure really is just not trying at all, is staying small and being comfortable with small. That's the true failure. I can respect the man or woman who shows up to the gym and is putting in the effort. Maybe the best that they know is to try and PR a calf raise. But if I come to them and then explain these other options that are available to them and they're willing and they hear me and they don't fight back, they don't push me away thinking that they know better, then I don't see them as a failure. It's the willingness to stay small, the being comfortable with being small that I see as the true error, the true failure. Right? Skipping down to the end here, this part right here. There is little use for the being whose tepid soul knows nothing of the great and generous emotion, of the high pride, the stern belief, the lofty enthusiasm of the men who quell the storm and ride the thunder. There is no use for people who don't chase the storm. Again, if you want to come with me, if you want to be part of my tribe, you're going to have to go after these difficult things. Otherwise, I have no use for you.
Be big. Be powerful. Be capable. Be dangerous. And hold the line.
Be like Gaston.
So I'm roughly the size of a barge.
You cannot help yourself.
I can't. Not today. I can't. I hope that we have gotten the point across that it's not just about the physical fitness, but that is the step one for everybody, because that's the lowest hanging fruit. But then beyond that, there is more that they need to chase. Storms that need to be ridden. And they need to be enthusiastic about that. Not this tepid approach to trying to mimic in some way this idea of being big, or just giving up altogether and accepting their fate as invisible and small people.
That's against our mission of teaching and training individuals to make sovereign decisions for themselves. Like, the world will act upon you if you don't stand up and dare to win.
Right. I love it. Let's leave it there. Thanks for joining us today. Out. This has been a production of Anthroponautics, owned and operated by Slade Enterprises. Don't steal our stuff, or we'll show you what it means to be truly small.